Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast. My name is David Higgins, and this is episode 7 of Ukraine Nonprofits Under Fire. And I'm so glad you are joining us today. Well, we have an amazing podcast. A lot's going on. Well, not only do we get a time to spend with Samaritan's person who's doing an amazing job in country in Ukraine and is under fire. They actually last night had a lot of rockets right into the city they're at and around their position where they have hospitals and nursing. And we get to talk to them and about their operation. And Colton had an amazing interview with them. But also, Sandra is back and she has a special bundle to introduce to us. And I'm so excited about that. Sandra, how are you feeling today?
I feel just great, and we have our baby here with us, little baby Isla. She's the sweetest girl ever. Yeah,
Wow.
she's just
How do you
asleep right.
spell Isla's name for all the birthday cards?
Ayla.
Ayla. Isla. I love it. She is beautiful. Is she allowing you to sleep through the night yet, or are you still up every few hours?
It's like on and off type thing. Like some nights,
It's better than the others.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
if she is outside for a bit and then she takes a bath in the night, then she sleeps good. But if
yeah.
it's not, then like she's all over the place.
Sounds like she's already a teenager.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
getting there slowly.
She is beautiful. Thank you for sharing her with us today.
Thank you.
Colton, in Ukraine, there's been a lot going on just the last couple days. Can you share with us some of the updates that are on that you're hearing on your end?
Just recently, a report was confirmed after a long period of speculation that Vladimir Putin does have cancer, and he's supposed to go undergo surgery for it within the next 2 weeks. But while he is rehabbing and recouping, former federal police chief Viktor Mikhailovich is supposed to take over his place. We really hear that he's not much better. Another piece of news that we've heard is that since the whole war has started, Vladimir Zelensky has had 10 attempts on his life.
Thank God that they haven't taken out Zelensky, and what a brave man for standing in his post and fighting alongside all the soldiers in the one area he can, which is in the area of being able to get resources from the West and being able to pull attention of the world into the fight so that Ukraine just doesn't disappear with the 15-second news cycle that there is these days.
Takes a lot of guts to stand your ground in a place where bombs are dropping every day, the enemy is trying to occupy, but it also comes with a lot of risk.
It's one of those remarkable things about the Ukrainian population. You have Olympic athletes that have could easily stay in a foreign country where they've been training, but they go home and they put on a uniform and they're fighting on the front lines. You have millionaires and retired athletes that have homes in other countries that could easily be there, but they are there fighting on the front lines. Like the mayor of Kiev, he certainly doesn't have to be there, but he's choosing to be there and fight for his city and for his
Yeah.
country, and many others that have done the same thing. I cannot think in recent history when a home country has come under attack where the wealthy did not get out of the way and those that are able to escaped. Instead, in Ukraine, you're seeing the opposite, where many people are coming back to fight for the country, even though they have the ability to stay out of the conflict. They're fighting for their homeland. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment
Another
on this.
piece of news, Lviv, Ukraine was shelled 4 times, right near where me and Sandra are.
Yeah, we had to get some documents ready, and it was a bit of a long process. And we went to just to visit some relatives the other day, and the rockets flew right over the building where we were at. It was really scary, and it was
Oh,
kind of
wow.
shocking for us. Nothing really hit Lviv. Like there was a hit there and here, but most of the rockets that were flying to us, we took them down. Our military, but this time there was like 5 hits, and one was really
Did
close
you
to her.
feel the rockets hit? Were they like close to where you were at?
Yeah, they sounded really close, and we could see the fire and smoke.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
so these two were in a different place than I was. I was at our house in Lviv, and I could feel the shockwave, the shake after the fourth missile hit, and it was just it's a crazy experience, something that you never expect to happen. You're just listening, and it just didn't register until a few seconds after. It's like, this is a rocket that just hit Lviv, and you don't know what's gonna come next. It all stopped after the fourth, but you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we
And
were just sitting fellowshipping, and suddenly we heard like book, book, like something is blowing up, and it was really scary.
yeah,
Well, I'm
I mean,
glad the three of you are safe.
Yeah,
we are too.
thank God.
Are you going to be staying leave for a while, or are you moving out of there again?
So in the next few days, we're gonna be going to Poland.
To
Uh,
get some more
we
documents
have to get
finished.
her American passport and social security number.
Well, you
It's
do need to protect your wife and your baby. I fully understand that, and
yeah,
I cannot wait to give you all a hug when you get back stateside over here. So
yeah, it's gonna
Yeah,
be
we can
great.
come and visit.
I love it. I have heard about the 156 people that were rescued out of the Azov plant in Mariupol. I hear, and maybe you have better news on your end, Russia today started a full scale attack with tanks, artillery, manpower against the remaining defenders of that plant there. But the remaining defenders have no ammunition at all. They're basically throwing stones.
From what we've heard, that is accurate. They're pretty much just there's nothing left. There's no ammunition. There's little to no supplies. And they're just fighting with whatever they can find, and it's a terrible situation. And you know,
They're
the
able to
deep.
rescue 156 civilians, but over 1,000 was still left in the plant that they were not able to get out because of restrictions to transportation from the Russians.
It's a bittersweet victory whenever you can get a small portion of people out compared to everyone that's in the plant. You want to celebrate the small victory, but there's just so many more lives at stake.
I was reading a situation report, and this was pretty exciting, talking about the military strength that there is an organization that's tracking all the statistical losses in Ukraine army as well as Russia and the Russian army, and they report these statistical analysis to the Hague, to the UN, and so they have to be very accurate. And they say they have to make visual confirmation of every tank that's blown off, every plane that's blown up. And in their report, they stated that Russia has lost over 20% of all of their tanks, and as much as that's a visual confirmation, but according to their records, they've had over 35% of all of Russian tanks and mobility being destroyed in their entire army. I mean, like in the largest country in the world, and it is so many of their military is, imagine 35% or 25% if you go by just visual record of how many tanks you've lost. That is a huge impact. One out of four tanks in the entire country owned by that government. I think that's pretty amazing that Ukraine has destroyed that much machinery on their end. And then they looked at the Ukraine's with the Ukraine has only lost like 120 tanks, but they received over 300 more tanks from Germany and from Poland, and they have more tanks now than they did at the beginning of the war, which is a quite reversal from where Russia's at. And those statistics actually made me smile. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sandra, you have been in and out of leave through this entire crisis, and I know Samaritan's Purse has a big footprint there. Colton got a chance to do an interview with Samaritan's Purse. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience with Samaritan's Purse and kind of how their impact is in your region?
Actually do have a few centers here in Lviv, and one of their centers is at King Cross, and not far away from us. And I think it's a bigger center. There is hospital, and they take in patients, and they help them out how they can, and they give them medical attention. I know that some other centers, they help out drug addicts, women who've been abused, and they're doing an amazing job here. So enjoy this interview.
Hi, everybody. Today I get the opportunity to interview Dave Phillips. He's the Deputy Director of International Projects for Samaritan's Purse, and Samaritan's Purse is really helping out a lot here in Lviv. They're just all over the place, helping people who are sick, helping people who are displaced, and it's really great to see what they're doing here. How are you doing today, Dave?
Doing well, Colton, and I'm really excited to be on the call with you today. Obviously, it's a really challenging situation there in Ukraine, but we're glad to have a chance to communicate with you today about what's going on.
Could you give our listeners who don't know much about Samaritan's Purse some background on how Bob Pierce started this nonprofit ministry and some of the things you've been doing all around the world for the past 52 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So Samaritan's Purse has been around since 1970. We're an international Christian relief organization working in man-made and natural disasters, places of crisis all over the world. Think of places like the Rwanda genocide, Bosnia, the Darfur crisis, Sudan, South Sudan. And then also most recently responded to the earthquake in Haiti just last year, the hurricanes that hit the Bahamas. We did quite a lot with COVID as well, responding to COVID-19 in the early days when the health systems were overrun. And yes, as you mentioned, Bob Pierce is the founder of Samaritan's Purse. Bob Pierce was an incredible man, documentary filmmaker, a radio host himself, an author. He co-founded Youth for Christ, and he was the founder of World Vision, and then later in life, the founder of Samaritan's Purse. And the thing about Bob Pierce is that above all of his achievements and the things that he did, he was a follower of Christ, and he really embedded that into the organizations that he founded. And I think of just a couple days ago, you mentioned in Lviv there, we had a patient named Oleg who stated, when you Samaritan's Purse staff, when you pray for us, it's more important for our souls than any pills or medicine that you can give. So thank you for coming to this dangerous place to help us. And when that man said that, I thought, well, that's something that would honor the intentions of Bob Pierce, the life that he lived, and the desire that he had when he founded Samaritan's Purse, for Samaritan's Purse to be a ministry that helps people in Jesus' name. And to meet the physical and spiritual needs of those that are suffering. And so that's a part of our identity and our culture and who we are here at Samaritan's Purse.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I did some reading on him whenever I was researching for the questions, and it's just some awesome stuff that he did. He lived a really full life.
Indeed.
Yeah. While Samaritan's Purse was in the process of giving out 600,000 Operation Christmas Child gift-filled shoeboxes here in Ukraine, the war broke out. Could you tell us how this directly affected some of the people that you had on the ground at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a program that we help children all over the world with gift boxes, and this is a part of our global programming here at Samaritan's Purse. We're in a lot of different countries, and so in Ukraine we had been providing direct relief assistance since the 2014 conflict on both sides of the border, actually, in Russia and in Ukraine. And so we were monitoring the situation very closely because of the fault lines that were there. And so when the crisis broke out, we were able to very quickly address immediately the security issues of our staff on the ground who live in Ukraine, whose families are there, and try to provide immediate support to them. But then as at the same time, simultaneously, we were deploying our own assessment team to begin conducting relief and needs assessments so that we could identify how Samaritan's Purse could respond to those who are fleeing. And as you will recall, you were seeing these massive lines of people at the border. There was a lot of confusion about the security issue. And so what we did as an organization, when we looked at this and we prayed over the crisis, we tried to take as forward-leaning of an approach as possible and really push to go where the needs were. And so as Samaritan's Purse, that's a part of how we try to think about a crisis. If our plans get interrupted, we don't want that to be the thing that derails our ability to help people. So we want to push towards, run to the fire, go towards the danger, go to the hard place, do the hard thing, and of course, not ignoring security issues, but trying to be present there in the midst of whatever the crisis may be. So that's resulted in us not just deploying the assessment team within the first few hours of the crisis, but also scaling up quite rapidly in order to help people both in medical and non-medical items, which I'm sure we'll touch on as we go. But in those initial days, that's how we were able to pivot our work to try and meet the needs of the most vulnerable. We have over 3,000 partners in Ukraine, and we're able to really support them directly as they're supporting their communities, because they're the ones that are closest to the people who've been displaced and who are in need.
Yeah. So, yeah, it really seems like building this, like such a large network of churches all over the world has helped you guys out tremendously,
Yeah, that's right. So we work with local churches. They would be our primary partners in the places where we work.
Mhm.
And the thing about local churches is that just as with Samaritan's Purse, the desire is to show people God's love.
Mhm.
And sometimes the people that need love the most are the ones who are hurting the most. And so at Samaritan's Purse, that becomes a part of our thinking is that who are the most vulnerable? Where can we find the best way to support the needs of those most vulnerable people? And so our church network globally certainly is there. It's important. But when we come down to Ukraine, we've been working in Ukraine for many years, as you mentioned, through the gift box program,
Mhm.
as well as other operations that happen. So we were immediately able to help provide support to them as the churches inside of Ukraine begin developing their own response to the needs of IDPs and of refugees and of those who are suffering from the conflict. And this is something I think is an astounding, underreported, under acknowledged aspect of what's going on in the war is the courage and the faith and the commitment of church leaders who are opening their doors. There's hundreds of people living in almost every church
Mhm.
in Ukraine. It doesn't matter if it's a Catholic church or an Orthodox church or a Protestant church. People are just opening up their doors and allowing those who have need to come in. They're providing meals. And so Samaritan's Purse is supporting that effort. Like, we want to be able to support local churches who are engaged on the front lines with the need that's present there in the population.
As air raid sirens continue to go off every day here in Lviv and in different parts of Ukraine, we know that you've brought supplies by cargo jet a few different times, but have the sirens and repeated air attacks discouraged you guys?
Yeah. That you mentioned the cargo planes and the ongoing operations, and obviously this great security risk that is all around these operations that are happening.
Mhm.
We do have our own cargo airplanes here at Samaritan's Purse, and this enables us to very quickly get on the scene within a few hours, really anywhere in the world that we can land that plane. And it's a combi plane, which means that you can put humanitarian professionals and cargo in at the same time, so we can deliver a package of support and service on the ground. And that we say one of the things we say, at Samaritan's Purse, we at the core of us is love and a little bit of logistics. We want to be logistically able to get there. But then on top of that as well is this issue you're talking about, which is the security. What's happening on the ground right now in security. And so I would say that we are taking very seriously the constraints and the issues that we face on the ground with the daily concern of things like the missile attacks that are happening. There's artillery, there's the active front lines of the conflict. But those are the places also where people have the most need. And so where the most need is where we want to be in order to try to provide support to those who are most vulnerable, most affected. And so it's an ongoing tension that exists within our thinking about how do we effectively and safely provide support, but how do we also not have unnecessary too high of a risk tolerance, because those are the people that need the help the most, but not doing things recklessly, not doing things in a way that's going to put our staff in unnecessary harm.
On your site, you have a list of stories, that have come out of Ukraine from different displaced people or people that just don't have anywhere to go, that are super inspiring. I just want to know, have you personally heard any stories coming out of Ukraine that have touched you in any way?
Yeah, there's just so many, and just a few that come to mind. In the early days there, we had a woman who was 7 months pregnant who came to our emergency field hospital there in Lviv because she had run out of prenatal vitamins, and she had been traveling, for days, and was terrified that her baby's health was impacted as she had to leave so quickly and flee for safety. And she just cried tears of joy when our nurse found the baby's heartbeat and let her know that he was continuing to grow and the baby was healthy and strong, and her pregnancy was safe, and just how much that impacted. And actually, our first patient that Samaritan's Purse saw, we had several orthopedic patients at the hospital, and this lady's name was Marina, and she was our first patient. She fell and had injured her arm while she was escaping into a bomb shelter in the city where she lived, just outside of Kyiv.
Mm-hmm.
And she had suffered for 9 days with this injury before she arrived at our facility, and she just was crying tears of relief and joy when a doctor told her that the team could help relieve her pain and fix the broken arm.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are just some of the stories that we're seeing. Some of our patients, they've been so sick that they haven't made it, but at the same time, there's many who we've been able to help, and to help them either on their way as they're going to become refugees, or some of them are now even, as returning, coming back. And so we want to be able to be there in the time of need for these folks who are suffering because of the crisis.
Are there any obstacles that you're facing right now as you continue to help those in need of food, shelter, and medical support in Ukraine and Moldova?
Yeah, there's so many challenges right now. The security situation, as I had mentioned just briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Another issue that we face is the global supply chain. Where you have the compounding factors of the snarling of the global supply chain in the aftermath of COVID, where you have such limitations on some of the big manufacturing companies in the world, that has slowed down the availability of things like medical supplies, like food, even items that help to purify water. All of these things are impacted by the global supply chain and the direct delivery of assistance to beneficiaries that are in need. And so this makes things both more expensive and longer lead times in order to secure those items.
Yeah.
And so we're having to come up with creative solutions. Our logistics team is an incredible sourcing procurement group who are combing the world, all over the world, from Korea to India to here in the United States and other markets, in order to identify the supplies that are necessary. Really, these are life-saving humanitarian supplies. And so it's incredible to see, the both the identification of these items, but also some of our donors coming through and saying, hey, we want to help to contribute to some of these things. And so these have been real challenges. But I would say that the security issues on the ground and the ability to deliver assistance, especially when you think about some of the places in Ukraine that are cut off, that are physically you're unable to access because of the fighting, that becomes paramount in our thinking in terms of challenges, because those folks are really suffering. You have people, and you've heard the anecdotal stories of people cracking open radiators to try to get drinking water and running out of food and getting into desperate situations. And so these challenges of security, not just in terms of where do we need to be in a bomb shelter or some kind of a shelter because there's an attack going on, but how do we get to those who physically can't get out? How do we help those who physically are trapped or who are on the other side of a fighting line? And so these are some of the things that really are challenging to us, and we try to prayerfully, wisely, and with the best information available, address them each as they come up.
I just wanted to ask, how can our listeners support Samaritan's Purse cause right now? Like through supplies, donations,
Yeah, thank you, Colton. I would say the first thing always we ask is that people pray.
Mm-hmm.
Pray for peace in Ukraine. Pray for those, as we mentioned, those who are caught in the fighting, who are suffering, whose families have been torn apart, who have lost loved ones. Pray for these people who are really suffering, and for the Samaritan's Purse staff that are on the ground trying to help them in Jesus' name. And then anybody that is interested can go to our website, which is SamaritansPurse.org. And there's information there about how people can get involved, either by trying to sign up for our DART roster or providing donations. There's all kinds of information on our website that's updated daily about the work that Samaritan's Purse is doing in Ukraine. And anybody that's interested in knowing more can go to the website, SamaritansPurse.org, and find out more.
Yeah. That's awesome. So it's been a great conversation, Dave. It's really beautiful what you guys are doing in Ukraine and around Ukraine to help the displaced and the refugees. Thanks so much for giving us this time to talk to you today.
Thank you, Colton. I'm really grateful to talk to you today.
Thank you for that interview, Colton. That was really good. I've actually only have thought of Samaritan's Purse as some small outreach arm of the Billy Graham Crusade, but not realizing what kind of impact and strength it is on its own merit. They're a pretty amazing organization.
Samaritan's Purse is definitely more than meets the eye. I remember whenever I was a kid, we used to do these Project Christmas Child gift shoe boxes. And, looking back on that time and looking at Samaritan's Purse now, it's so much different than what I thought.
Sandra, you've set up a really cool interview this next week with another nonprofit that is working in your region. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Give us a bit of a teaser.
Yeah, we got the chance to have these next few interviews with Action Aid and Global Givings. We're really excited for those and looking forward.
Action Aid, what countries are they working in right now during the conflict?
They're working in Poland, Moldova, and Romania right now.
Yeah,
Very
helping out
good. They're in the
refugees.
refugee support. I cannot wait to hear that interview next week and get to learn a little bit more about who they are as a nonprofit and what amazing work they're doing. You two are going to be going from where you are now and going back into Poland this next week, right? So we'll be talking to you from Krakow.
Yes, we're going there for a few weeks to get our documents situated. We're planning to come back to Ukraine.
From there, maybe back to the States here this summer. That will be great.
Yes.
I look forward to talking to you every single week.
Yeah, it's definitely our pleasure. We have a lot of fun doing this, and it's it's an exciting thing to do between the bomb blasts.
That's kind of sad. I shouldn't be laughing. Do stay safe between the bomb blasts. Please be careful. We love you and cannot wait to see you safely over here in the States. And for all of you that are listening to this podcast, thank you for your support of Joshua House. We know Joshua House is doing an amazing job. We look forward to hearing an update about them on our next episode. Also, we'll be talking to Action Aid and hearing what they're doing and getting to learn more about them as an organization. And for you, just like Colton and Sandra, be safe. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye now.
I'm staring through your window, looking up at the stars, up at the stars.